Alright, library access and bait and switch got errata. Now what does that mean? That means that the text that was on the cards before now technically according to the rules is different. Now why don't we start with the easier one being bait and switch. So bait and switch. Simply speaking, now when you use bait and switch you pretty much use a different version of Magda the Rat, since bait and switch can now max steal 2 amber, just like Magda the Rat does. Now, as opposed to Magda the Rat, bait and switch varies when it comes to his effectability. You can either have no amber gain with him, depending on the time when you play him, 1 amber more, or 2 amber more. So it's a really varying card, and honestly the only reason why it was such a big card before was because when you, for example, just forged your key, and therefore have like, what, 2 amber or something? And your opponent last turn went crazy building his amber and has, let's say, 18 amber. You're gonna have a new key ready just like that, but with the new effect, that's no longer gonna be a thing. I do feel like that might just be how this card was supposed to play, because when you look at the old text and compare it to the errata, they seem pretty similar. So maybe Richard Garfield originally intended this card to be like, you steal 1, if your opponent still got more, you steal 1 more. Oh, the power, you steal 2. But since we just saw this big mountain of amber on the card, and it did say to repeat this effect without ever telling us to stop, well, we just assumed we can take it all. So maybe that's what happened. It's possible that instead of the card working the way intended, it just worked the way we wanted it to work. Now, too much to protect, I feel, thanks to this nerf, is actually going to have more of the spotlight, because I do feel like this card originally even was better than bait and switch in a lot of situations. Well, let's say for example, too much to protect, first turn, great, you get an amber, you might not steal anything from your opponent because it's the first turn, but you get an amber, so it's not useless. When you have bait and switch in your first turn, you either A, wait, which means you are stuck with a dead card in your hand until it's useful, or you discard it, which gives you totally nothing. Now, when, for example, you have bait and switch and a lot of amber, and let's say you can't make a key because of miasma or your opponent putting up a card which raises your key cost, then it's over. Then you can't really bait and switch anything if you have 8 amber and your opponent has 9 amber. What you're gonna do, bait and switch 1 amber? Oh, that's massive. You use too much to protect when your opponent has 10 amber. You have 8 amber, doesn't matter, you're gonna take 4 amber and gain 1 amber for the card itself. The other card for today, we have library access. Now everyone knows that library access was pretty much made for a fantasy. They were made for each other. You have this card that pretty much recycles you anything and has an omni effect. So you can do that during a Logos turn. You play library access, goes to the grave, you use the fantasy, that thing goes away, you get your library access back, you play your library access, and now not only do you get to draw 1 card, because the previous library access you activate lets you, but this new library access makes it so that every next card you play, you draw 2. It's ridiculous. No wonder that they decided to errata this card. Now, what I feel they could have done better here with the errata is changed it a bit. Now, I don't know why, but I noticed that Keyforge doesn't really use the terminology once per turn anywhere with its cards to balance them. They either give them some sort of minus like less power or no amber bonus, or I don't know, alpha and omega is the newest one right now. But it is a really healthy card game terminology that helps you with any sort of misbalance. Now when you have library access, now the new text says you play library access, it's purged, meaning it's gone from the game. So you can no longer use Nefenda's Seed in order to recycle it. However, when it comes to stuff being purged, banished, put in the lost zone, put it in whatever terminology. If you've ever played any other card game than Keyforge, then you know that at some point when the game gets older, everything gets a bit more expanded and open. So when it comes to something that right now is just closed, we have no access to it, like the purged zone. Eventually, it's very likely that we'll get cards that let us have access to it, just because it's a nice function, I guess. Just being able to retrieve what's supposed to be gone forever, you know? But now, if that would happen, we have library access, and this card purges itself. So if we have, for example, let's say, I don't know, some schmuck, which says, I get played, I return you a card from the purge zone. Lovely. So, doesn't matter what family it is in, it can always be a Maverick. Let's not forget what game we're playing. So we play library access, we play the schmuck, he returns our library access, and look, Nepenthes Seed is back. And technically, depending on if it's a play creature, or reap creature, or artifact, or whatever, it's either better or the same. So eventually, we will just be back in the same problem we were in with Nepenthes Seed, because they didn't use once per turn. Now, of course, it's all hypothetical, right? How could I know if they will actually use the purge zone for anything in the future? I don't know that. But it is very likely looking at a lot of different card games. So just something that I wanted to touch upon based on the fact that it is very likely in the future that we will see something similar again if they decide to play with the purge zone. And then we'll just have to have another library access errata. Now, if they keep on errata-ing cards, that's all fine, but I do feel like the people errata-ing Keyforge cards need to really just use the terminology once per turn. It's just a good way to balance stuff. I don't know how long we will wait until they do that, but let's hope it's gonna be soon, because I do not want another mess like this on a game table anytime soon. I am the Keyforge Corner. I hope you enjoyed what you've seen today, and I will have some more videos really soon. Tomorrow, in fact. So why don't you subscribe, tell your friends, do other things. There's even a giveaway coming up with... I won't spoil it just yet, but I will spoil it really soon. So just subscribe, tell your friends, and join the giveaway that comes soon. Keep on forging those keys, and I will hear you some other time.